Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 Twitter handle, and I'm joined as ever by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW Twitter handle. I called Sean my sidekick the other day. I shall bow down to his title because Sean, I'll give him his real title. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Sean is the editor of the Celtic Way. So there you go. A bit of that rather than calling myself. I'll indeed. Now, we're going to involve everybody today because we thought we'd do something a wee bit different on the briefing this morning. Sean?
Yep.
Ange, who comes from the cricket-loving country of Australia, was 50 not out on Sunday. And so we thought we would do a kind of snog, marry, avoid in a different kind of way by doing the best performance, your favourite performance, and the most important performance of the season in that order, Sean.
Yep.
So I will throw those questions to you, Sean. Of Ange's 50 games, what's been the best performance for you so far?
Well, I think it's important we take it in that order because since this episode is essentially all about Ange Postecoglou, I thought we'd go with a very Postecoglou answer before we start and say it's not necessarily about the result, mate. It's the manner in which we do it. But to that end, best performance, I mean, in terms of best performance, there's quite a lot came to my mind when you suggested that. I'm thinking even in terms of halves, the first half against Hibs, the AZ 2-0 game, the Dundee United 3-0 game, which you remember inexplicably led me to declare that Callum McGregor is Celtic's Paul McCartney. And even the Livy game at the weekend, I mean, that's a performance that was up there. But choosing one, I mean, it's not going to surprise anybody. Choosing one, to me, it was a complete and utter dismantling of Rangers at Parkhead at the start of February, surely. I mean, the first half blew them away. Second half was, despite what the narrative coming out of Ibrox after it suggested, the second half was a Celtic team in virtually complete control, saying, you know, here's the ball, we'll take a wee rest, will you muck about for a bit? So I think it's got to be that for me.
Yep, I would concur. That's the best performance for me this season. We also spoke off air and I brought up the Hearts 3-2 game where for half an hour and you were giving me some XG stats. They were absolutely unplayable. And you've mentioned a few there. But I think in terms of best performance, and I think Ange's quotes after it said it all, didn't it? That a lot of people come into the stadium with worries, but for 95 minutes they put them, you know, to the side. And I think everybody enjoyed it. It was just a management, players and fans in unison, wasn't it? So I would agree Celtic 3, Rangers 0, start of February was the best performance of the season so far.
So far, aye, keyword. There's a few comments in there about the Dundee United game, the Rangers game, different things. I think that Hearts game that you mentioned, it kind of goes overlooked because it was only 2 weeks after Hearts had beat them in the opener.
Yeah.
Well, all that entailed, even though I'd still maintain that there was an onside goal and you never know what would happen after that, or that kind of thing. But still, to play Hearts a couple of weeks later, and I realised it was 3-2, which doesn't necessarily suggest it was as big a gap as what it was. In reality, you're right, that game, I think it might still be the most kind of expected goals that Celtic's created in one game a season. I think, and it might be wrong, but I think it is. 3-2 didn't tell how dominant they were that game, and it kind of gets overlooked, I think.
It's the first time you saw kind of the phrase Ange ball, which I put in quotation marks. It's the first time you kind of witnessed it and the effect that it could have if it all came together. Because as I say, I thought for about half an hour, there was a 20-minute, half an hour spell in that game where Celtic were ferocious in their attacking intent and Hearts couldn't live with them. And as you see, they created a lot of chances and missed a lot of chances. And the 3-2 scoreline at the end wasn't reflective of what I thought was quite a dominant performance. And probably a lot of people might have forgotten that because of everything else that's came since. But yeah, to me, that's up there. Tannadice 3-0 was great. The couple of the goals that they scored that day were terrific. Tom Logic in particular. And
think on it, this is us not even mentioning 2 6-0 wins.
Yeah, not even not mentioning, you know, Kyogo's hat trick introduction.
Yep,
to the supporters, you know, everything fell into place there. So yeah, I mean, everybody will have their own take on it, but that's a great thing about it. Comments coming in, which is magic, but it's just great to sort of look back in the 50 games because it's a nice milestone for Ange. Now, My favourite, Sean, and it's just a personal favourite of mine, and it's self-interest declared and all that, but is the cup final, because one, it's the first day I met you, Andy's first time that he'd won a trophy in Scotland, and it was a terrific way to win it with Kyogo's double when Kyogo was supposed to be unfit, and he played the role of Superman, superhero. Just everything fell into place that day, and it'll linger long in my memory. It was nice to be there, to be writing about it, and so for selfish reasons, that's my favourite.
Frank Brennan there agreeing with you.
Yeah. You know, and Kyogo's second goals in particular, and even the one that he scored, the equaliser, coming so soon after him. So there was a lot to enjoy about that day. So that's my favourite performance of the season so far.
I feel pretty bad now that I've not picked up one. I picked Mary's is just a lot more simple. My favourite one, I've picked Celtic 6 Dundee 0, simply because it was the first game after I joined the site that I was actually on duty for a win, because I thought I was cursed for a while. The pre-season game that I'd done, and then the first couple of games they hadn't won. When I was doing the detailed ratings and stuff, and then all of a sudden 6-0 Dundee, here we go. I mean, what a win it was. It gave a wee glimpse into what Ange could get out of players when they click, and also made me believe that they could take 10 off a domestic opponent at some point. So
you still think they can take 10 off somebody, Sean, or is it too the business end of the season now?
In the last 8 games, I'm not going to predict that, but as long as Ange is here, you don't know. I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, that's true. As I say, I mean, I think a lot of people will have enjoyed the cup final, and you know, I think Ange enjoyed it. There was a personal satisfaction. Ricky Heller from Sean says Pedro, indeed. But yeah, I think the cup final was just important. And I said at the time, we stood and looked at each other, and he was really proud, wasn't he, when he was talking in the auditorium? You know, and I turned to you and said, it's days like this that he flew halfway across the world to experience. You know, and you could tell that without actually saying the words, he was just immensely proud of what he'd achieved with that group of players within June, July, 6 months of taking the job.
I agree. He was always, as always, he was quite measured, but it was you could still feel the emotion in his you'll hear the emotion in his voice and feel the emotion in the room as well from him. I agree with you. I think that's probably up there. I feel bad I've not picked it now.
I mean, and also as well as there's football fan comes in and says,
We'll come to that shortly. I think we've left the most important subject to the last.
Well, I suppose it depends on how you read them in order of preference.
I've got a sneaking suspicion I know what one you're going to pick for most important. You've mentioned it more than once on here, and there's been a couple of people mentioned it in the comments as well already.
Yeah, I mean, I'll dive into that then. My most important one, Aberdeen away.
Yep.
Jota's goal last few minutes. The one that kind of cemented Ange with the fans as well. They really bonded with them that day. It was a pivotal result, I thought, in the season, having lost their first kind of 3 away games of the season. And I think that Aberdeen result was crucial to what. Well, there you go. I agree with Frank as well. It was crucial to what Ange was trying to achieve, and crucial to kind of the Celtic fans trusting the process and trusting in Ange, because there was a lot of them wavering at that point. Not so much myself included, but it was important to show that they could win away from home as well and get that kind of voodoo banished as well. And I think they were entering it was Aberdeen, Motherwell and Hibernian away, wasn't it?
He's getting his silly reputation for banishing Celtic hoodoo, isn't he?
He is indeed. The hoodoo banisher, but and just the way they did it, they didn't do it playing Ange ball. They did it. They ground it out, which a lot of people said they had no plan B and they couldn't play like that. It was the silky stuff or nothing, So I thought that a lot of boxes were ticked that day in the eyes of the Celtic supporters as well, and with Ange's team. And I agree with that. And then it was I don't think anybody can underestimate the significance and the importance of that win at Pittodrie. I could be wrong, or not so much wrong, but others might think differently. But
I don't necessarily think it was a victory for Postecoglou as a pragmatist after all, that kind of thing. I do think they just kept chipping away the way they wanted them to chip away. I don't think they started launching it and ditching what he was asking them to do. It just worked out that day, is what I would say, and it pretty pivotal that it worked out. But I mean, we have spoken about that Aberdeen game plenty of times. It kick-started this big domestic run.
Yeah,
don't forget.
Unbeaten since.
I'm telling you, I've said it before. In 2 or 3 years' time, maybe longer, we'll be coming back to that one as a moments that mattered for the site if Celtic go on and win that league. And that day, I mean, when I done a wee, I mean, you all remember the Kyogo chested goal from that game. I chose that one over his cup final goal. I should add, I chose that one as my favourite of his so far this season. When I wrote a wee summary during the winter break about the impact he's had since arriving. I mean, go look at it on the site if you haven't read it. We break it down into frames, and it's just smashing when you do it and you show how switched on he was compared to literally everybody else on the pitch. It's not even because it's a chested finish, because that was class enough. It's before it. He's already making runs, exploiting a space before Turnbull's even caught the ball for the throw in that it comes from, and different things. It was smashing to break it down. But that's not the game I've picked. I suspected that was the game you were going to pick, so I thought, right, I'll pick something else. I mean, it is up there, and I think the Rangers game's got to be up there for the most important one as well, in terms of what it did to the league table as much as anything. I think there's other candidates too, though. The Hibs in the League Cup final for most important in terms of being the first trophy of the season. That's a shout. But the one I think I'll go with is one that I've seen in the comments a few times here, the Ross County last second winner. I mean, it was miles away from the best performance in terms of the standard that they reached that day. But the result and keeping that momentum at that time of the season, I think it's up there.
The celebrations are probably up there, Sean, as well. I don't know what the shouts were like in the Greenock household, but there was certainly a few shouts in East Kilbride when that goal went in, because I thought I think I was watching it on a feed, and it conked out. It conked out, and I was working. I was like, and then live score was on, and it flashed to say big chance against Celtic's name, and I thought, Celtic have scored. I couldn't believe it. So
it's crucial if it's got Frank Brennan dancing about the house.
Yeah, I think as well, just it kept that momentum going, didn't it?
Yes, that's exactly it.
And also as well, it couldn't have happened to a better player this season. And I'm talking about Anthony Ralston, who was written off by so many, and he just that goal in itself is kind of microcosmic of the season. The ball coming across, and nobody was winning that header other than Anthony Ralston. Nobody was putting it in the net other than Anthony Ralston, because he knew the significance of scoring with the last gasp chance. But it was just typified Celtic going to the end. We never stop. That whole philosophy. Aye. And I've said before, if Anthony Ralston could cross the ball into himself, he would do it. You know what I mean? It's half the time he wants to be on the end of his own deliveries. But he just that for me just it encapsulated Celtic this season under Ange. They do go to the end and don't stop, and people complain in 97, 98 minutes. The game's over when the ref blows the whistle.
Nah, I know.
And another thing that
play to the whistle, that's what you're taught as a young gun.
Yes, an important thing for me was the wee shunt. Was it Montgomery that played it?
What, for the Ross County one?
For the Ross County goal, yeah. Somebody played it to McGregor.
Rogic crossed it in, but
Rogic crossed it in, but somebody shunted it to McGregor instead. It was a young player instead of having a
Moffat
goal. Moffat, it was. Moffat, sorry, it was Moffat, and it was that kind of trust the process.
I agree with you. I think that was
hero. He could have rattled it and tried to be a hero.
Well, Juranovic did do it. I mean, Juranovic did rattle it, and it rebounded, and then he chose. I agree with you. I think that was good.
It was a simple thing, but in terms of trusting the process, Moffat. Yeah, I couldn't remember. I just knew I'd spoke about it at the time, and I just thought, you know what, the kid learned. He thought, no, I'm not going to have him. Try the spectacular and be the hero. Just shunted the ball to McGregor so he could play it out to Rogic and get it out wide for that last gasp cross, which obviously led to Ralston scoring.
Nah. I mean, there's been a few of those. There's been a few of those like don't stop goals. Even that one I spoke about, the Pittodrie, the Kyogo chest finish. That was a we don't stop because none of the Aberdeen defenders are switched on enough. Turnbull takes a quick throw, gets it across before they even know what's happened. Kyogo's chesting it over the line and stuff. It was You had Fir Park, when Kyogo, there's a common theme here. Kyogo ran away back into his own half to win the ball back, straight up the pitch, scored. Ferencváros, Cal McGregor choosing to press on the edge of their area when we lost the ball instead of retreating into shape. Ferencváros again, Abada and Kyogo. Even the Ferencváros one where Hart releases it quicker than they're ready to set up and defend against. There's been several of those all season, and I think it does all come back to how much progress Ange has made with that group in his 50 games.
Abada's goal against Dundee United as well. 10 men, injury time goal again. Cracking cross, but the composure to chest it down and rattle it. Big moments, Sean, that define, championship winning teams. That kind of thing where you look back and you say that and that.
Yeah. I'm going to throw this one to you just before we finish, even though it's addressed to me.
Go on.
And we'll probably do a full show on it in maybe 5-6 weeks' time. David Bradley, who would you say is leading for Player of the Year in Scotland?
Now, up until that point, I said it was a no contest because I thought Kyogo.
Now you're thinking because he's not played enough.
Because he's not played enough, but has he played enough? But
he's played
enough that he's played. Has he still warranted the Player of the Year?
I don't know. Is that your contention? Is that what you're saying?
That's my contention. Yeah.
Even though the last time we updated him, Jota was actually putting him in the power rankings.
I mean, I've been impressed with Jota, but he's had a spell where he went off the boil, but he's still been fairly consistent, hasn't he? So it's a tough one now because I really did have Kyogo's nailed on.
There's plenty making a suggestion. Maybe Carter Vickers is in with a shout as well.
Well, he's been the epitome of solidness and calmness.
You've also got McGregor, who's one of those players, just one of those players. The position and the role he plays, he's always up there he should always be up there, considered for awards. And
he's always on the short list, isn't he?
Aye,
McGregor for me.
If you're looking at it with Celtic, I don't think a non-Celtic player will get it if Celtic win the league. I think it will be a Celtic player, but you're looking at maybe Reagan Charles Cook from Ross County. If they manage to get top 6 and he ends up still at the top of the scoring charts as a winger, I think he's had an impressive season. But I think if Celtic win the league, it will be a Celtic player, I think.
I think if Livingston can hold on to a European spot, then you'd have to look at some of their players. I know that they're not entertainers per se. Or
if they had a standout, though, that's I mean,
that's maybe it's a team collective then, so that's fair enough.
There's a few, but I think if Celtic win a league, it'll be a Celtic player. But that out with Celtic, Charles Cook's the one that pops into my head.
That's a good shout, to be fair.
Don't say Carter Vickers, his fee will go up another 10 million.
But Celtic have first refusal if he wants to come. Isn't that how these deals work? So hopefully that'll be. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to say Jota, Carter Vickers, and even Kyogo for what part he's played this season. I mean, he's played a prominent part and an important part. And
when I wrote that piece in the winter break, he had been in Scotland for 6 months, and basically I couched it on how he's became Scottish football's leading man in 6 months. Now he's not really played much since then, but at the time I think it was a fair assessment because he was anyway the main man. You could argue now because he's not played much in the last couple of months that it's possibly not the case. Maybe Jota's got that mantle, whatever. But certainly at the winter break, I did make the case that Kyogo was Scottish football's leading man. So you never know. There's still that contention to be made, I would think.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. As I say, he did a few things and I just nailed him on as a player of the year very early. I just said, this is it. Don't see any better than this guy. And he was winning it easy. Tony says David Bradley. Yeah, that's to be.
Got to put that out because I noticed, Frank, it was Adam Montgomery that put the ball in for Jota that day. Aye. Okay.
Yeah. But
he was Tony. He very well might have been, aye.
So there you go. But it's amazing that I love the contributions today, guys, and your different takes on different games, because how we all see things differently, but you remember the season differently as well. So it'd be a boring world if we all just said the Rangers game and that's it. So which is why we couch it with best favourite and the most important, because we knew people would have differing views on that. But I like the differing views, Sean. What about yourself?
No, that's what it's all about, and it's not just about me and you. So
yeah, correct. And it's not about cup finals and stuff. The Ross County goals are, you just remember the way you reacted to that, the way you reacted to Abada's goal as well, and various goals throughout the season. And it's all down to the fact that this guy came in a virtual unknown and he's put a smile on your face ever since. Let's be honest,
basically,
and that's it. And you're thankful that you now have him at the helm of your club. You're grateful for it, and he's given you many moments this season to go home happy with a smile on your face and forget your troubles, as he said himself.
I think Pedro's summed it up there, and I think we'll end with this one. Thank you, Stephen. Highlight Morning Briefing. Love that. Cheers.
That's very kind, Stephen, and thanks, Pedro, as well. Yeah, I always like doing these ones because it is positive, and I always, as a friend once said to me, things like this are good for the soul, Sean.
Yep.
They're good for the soul. You make your heart sing and dance, and you go into your day and you do your daily thing with a smile on your face and looking forward to the next one. All right, so we shall reconvene tomorrow. Don't know if we'll hit the dizzy heights of today, but hey, we'll try. We always try. John, as ever, appreciate your contribution. Thanks for your contributions, guys. I enjoyed that. That was quite enjoyable. Looking at your reflections on the season so far as well. 8 to go. Here's hoping it gets better.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.